All right, everybody. Gabe Jenkins back with you. Hope you're doing great. We're here to work on problem number 17. Wow, 17 already. Gosh, we're doing so well. All right. I'm going to walk through it just the way I kind of like outlined in the overview, and I hope this is helpful for you, especially as we talk about scale factor and then using construction lines to make sure that we're placing things in the right spot. All right. I said I was going to start off by making that rectangle and placing it where I want it, and then we're going to start making some offset lines. So start over here in AutoCAD. I'm going to be working in the visible layer to begin with. Make a square. Let's start our square here, and it says our square is 16 wide and 1 tall. So that's right there. Cool. I like my stuff to be centered, so I like to use the origin as an important I don't know, kind of like location when I start a drawing, right? And try to think about it logically, and like, are there areas of symmetry that I would want to make sure I can kind of find my way back to the origin from? So I'm going to move this guy, right? And I specify where's my base. I'm going to want the bottom midpoint to be my to be where I place it, right? Oh. Okay, I'm going to move where I'm going to pick that, and I'm going to move it. So now it is centered, and the bottom is right, basically the origin is right there on my drawing. All right. I don't know if I'm going to need to zoom out or not. All right, I'm going to make some construction lines. I'm going to make this top line, this bottom line. I'm going to hold off on making this construction line yet, because I'm going to just kind of create the rest of the diagram and then erase some of my construction lines, because I don't think they're going to be a little too messy. All right, so my first one I'll make is going to be 10 units offset from this line right here. It's going to be 10 up. So I'm going to say 10. My offset line is going to be 10. Oh, my bad. Mr. Jenkins, bad. So I need to explode this shape because it thinks of that as a rectangle, and I don't want to offset the entire thing. I just want to offset that top line, right? So I use the explode tool. Now I want to offset this one 10. Goes up to there. So that's going to be the topmost thing. Then I'm going to, from here, I just offset to the top. I'm going to do one more offset tool that's going to come down by 0.8. So click that, 0.8. I'm going to offset this down a little bit. Cool. So that's going to be that line right there. I know that this whole thing is, the top line is 8 units long, and the second one here is 6 units long. So I know that from my central vertical kind of central point of my whole thing, I know that it's 4 to the left and 4 to the right. So if I just make a construction line here, I might need to leave this one here. That's a super helpful one because it's just the vertical line of symmetry that's going to be helpful for everything going forward. And I'm going to do a couple of things here. I'm going to go back to my visible layer, and I'm going to make a line that goes from my central thing, and it's going to go out by 4 because it's half of that 8, 4. And then here I'm going to go out by 3. Right, and so then I'm going to be able to join those two things. So click, click, cool. This line and this line, they are construction, not center lines, they are construction lines. Okay. And I want to be able to mirror these three elements. I'm going to mirror them to the other side. And here's my line of symmetry. Don't erase anything. Cool. So now those are done. I can, if I want to now, just erase those. They're not helpful. I'm going to make now these arcs. And I just want you to see something real quick. The way AutoCAD thinks about arcs and the direction of the arcs kind of depends on where your starting point and where your end point is. So I'm going to draw a kind of arc. I think we've used this kind of arc before, but I know I know the starting point, and I know the end point, and I know that the radius is 12. So I know the start, the end, and I know the radius. So I'm going to use this one right here. I don't know where the center point is, so I'm going to use start, end, and I know the radius. So now it goes from here, click here, that's the start, that's the end, and it asks me to say, what is my radius? Cool. Okay. So when I started over here and went this direction, it gave me that arc. What if I start here and go this? So in terms of clockwise, counterclockwise, it matters how you start. So I'm just going to show you what happens. So if I click here and click here and say 12, it's making me go in the wrong direction. It's going the wrong direction, right? I don't want it to do that, right? So I could just hit Control, or I can just kind of start over and click here, 12. And it's going to make it, okay? That's that. All right, so going forward, we need to do a couple of things real quick. I need to start making this central pill, and then I'm going to make some copies of it, and then I'm going to scale those down so that they're the right size to put off to the side, off to the left, and off to the right. Then I'm also going to need one more construction line so that I can say exactly where to place the center point of all those pills. So what I know is that this right here has a radius of, there's a radius of 0.3, and that from the center point here to the center point down here is 0.38. So off to the side over here, I'm just going to make a line that is going to be, well, I'm going to make it a construction line. Why not? Make a construction line that's going to be 3.8 units long. Okay. At the top of it, I'm going to work back now. The rest of these are going to be visible. I am going to make a circle with a radius of 0.3. So I go here, 0.3 is my circle here, same circle down at the bottom. And now I'm going to join the side, the left side and the right side. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so I make sure I get the exact right quadrant point. Quadrant snaps are turned on. Click that, make that line right there, and then I'm going to do the same thing over here on the right. Great, and now that's done. I'm going to trim away the unwanted parts of it. I can trim away all of that, actually. All right, so now what I got here is ultimately I have the center point that I'm going to put somewhere in here, right? All right, so I'm going to talk about scale factor first. We're going to make a scale factor copies of this guy right here, okay? And so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to join them all. So right now they're all things of those separate elements. I'm going to join them into one element. So now if I click, it's just one thing, right? So if I say click, I want to make a copy of it. Where does it matter? It doesn't really matter. I'm just going to make it off to the side over here, right? All right. So now I'm going to click the scale tool. The scale tool you're going to find, it looks like a little square inside of a bigger square, right? Scale. So it enlarges the item, right? And when you read this, it tells you how it works, right? So to scale an object, specify the base point and the scale factor. The base point acts as the center of the scaling operation and remains stationary. So it means that whatever you pick as your scale point, as your base point, that thing's not going to move, but the rest of it's going to change based on, like, around that point, right? And so we're going to use it as the scale factor is going to be a decimal number. In this case, we said that the radius of the original is 0.3. The radius of the second one we're going to make is 0.24. So to find the scale factor, we take 0.24 divided by 0.3, and that gives us 0.8. So our scale factor is going to be 0.8, okay? So I'm going to take this guy right here, scale factor. It says pick your base point. I'm going to pick the center, and then it says ask me what the scale factor is. I'm going to type in 0.8. And you can see, made it a little bit small, okay? I'm going to make a copy of that real quick. Enter. Cool. All right, so those are the two. That's going to be this one and that one. Now I got to make one for the next smallest one out, and then we take 0.18 divided by 0.3. So I'm going to make a copy of this. I'm going to make a copy. Specify point. Doesn't really matter. Cool. Great. Now I'm going to make a scale factor of this, right? So I'm going to say, okay, this guy right here. I'm going to make a scale factor, scale around my center point, and I'm going to make it be 0.6. Okay, now I'm going to make a copy of that one more time. Okay, one more time I need to do this. I'm going to make a copy of this guy. here. Cool, we're gonna scale factor this. That's my object. What's my starting point here? And for the scale factor here, we're gonna take 0.12 divided by 0.3, which is gonna be, the answer here is 0.4. Okay, so these are the smallest little ones. Okay, make one more copy of it. That way we're good to go. So we got all of our little things that we're going to place here. So now we need to know where to place them. So as we look at this diagram, we know that the vertical center point of all these things is going to be exactly 5 inches up from that line. So I'm going to make another offset line, and it's going to be, my distance is going to be 5, and it's going to be offset from here. Okay, I'm going to move that up. I'm going to turn this into a construction line because I don't need it to be visible, and I'm going to want to be able to turn it off. Next, each one of these is exactly the center point. Horizontally, the center point is going to be 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch over. Lets us know that, right? So I'm going to set my offsets now equal to 1, and I'm just going to start clicking offset. 1, 2, 3 this side, and then 1, 2, 3 that side. All right, so now we have everything we need, and I'm just going to move subs. I'm going to move objects so that they're placed in the right spots. I got my central one, I got my 2 that comes out, and then I got them all made already. So now I'm just going to move them, right? So I click on my moving tool. That's my object I'm going to want to move. Hit enter. I'm going to want to place the center point because the center point is where I know where it goes, and I know the center point's going to go right there. Okay. Next one I'm going to move is going to be this one. And you just kind of go through this, right? Click on it, move it where you want it. Click on this, move. I'm using right click just so you know. You don't always have to go right up to the thing up here again. If you hit the right click button, it's going to ask you, it's going to give you that. So yeah, I click the right, so I click on this guy and then I right click, it's going to ask me what I want to do with it. It's going to ask me a bunch of stuff that I've used recently. I want to move this, right? So I'm going to move this one right there. Click on that. Move this one. And we're almost done here. And let me just zoom out a little bit. Click on it. Right click, move. Pick your spot. Make sure you pick the right spot. And one more to go. Move this one, get the center point, and we're going to place it right there, okay? So now we got everything, it looks like it's the right spot. I'm going to turn the construction layers off so I can just see what it looks like. And as I look at it, it all looks right. I don't see anything crazy. And that's it. So the main thing, obviously, just to reiterate, just to kind of like bring it all, summarize it, make sure that we're learning the right thing. The main thing I wanted you to learn from this entire assignment, from number 17, is how to use scale factor, how to make things that you've already created bigger or smaller based on a known scale factor, whether it's make something like twice as big or 0.4 times as big. That's how you do it. Use the scale factor button, which you'll find under the modify ribbon. It's a really useful tool that you're going to need to know how to use going forward. So therefore, I had you do it. All right. Have a great day, everybody. Hope you had fun with this one. All right.